Have you ever wondered why you make terrible life choices? Like, why do we eat that extra brownie when we desperately want to lose weight for summer? Why do we watch TV at night when we know we have an important assignment due the next day? And why do we browse Instagram when we know we have work to do? The reason for all of these things can be summed up in two words: hyperbolic discounting. AKA the reason we all by default make horrible life decisions. Hyperbolic discounting, put really simply, is our default bias to choose smaller immediate rewards rather than larger later rewards. Meaning it's why we choose to be lazy and watch TV rather than working out like we know we should. Researchers at MIT ran a simple experiment to illustrate how hyperbolic discounting works. Imagine you're given two choices. You can either have $100 today or $120 in a week. Which would you choose? Most people chose to have the $100 today. Then researchers mixed things up a bit and instead presented a different scenario. They gave the participants two new choices. Would you rather have $100 a year from now or $120 a year in a week from now? Overwhelmingly, people chose to take the $120. However, in both examples, it was essentially the exact same situation. If you waited a week, you'd get an extra $20. But each scenario produced a drastically different result. And that's of course because of hyperbolic discounting. In the first situation, the reward was immediately available. They could immediately have that $100, therefore they placed a higher value on it than the $120 they'd have to wait a week for. We give in to hyperbolic discounting when it comes to all kinds of decisions in our life, and unfortunately, oftentimes it causes us to make some really bad choices. Like when you know you're supposed to be doing the laundry right now, but instead you're watching TikTok videos. Or like when you know you're supposed to be saving money, but instead you end up buying a bunch of things on Amazon you know you don't need. Tons of important decisions from our health, success, and relationships to our finances, happiness, and well-being are all heavily affected by hyperbolic discounting. And more often than not, for us to choose correctly requires us to choose those long-term big rewards over the instant gratifications we're wired by default to give into. And all this, to summarize, means essentially two things. One, we are wired by default to make terrible life choices. And two, if you can overcome this bias, you can gain a massive advantage over the rest of the world. The average person falls victim to hyperbolic discounting on a daily basis, causing them to trade long-term success for short-term immediate rewards. And when you're able to flip the switch in your brain that allows you to do the opposite of what normal people do, you're able to get extraordinary results. You're able to trade those short-term immediate gratifications for long-term massive success. And because of that, you'll be able to achieve results that other people will have trouble comprehending. For example, maybe you want to make $1 million. Well, the average American wastes about $18,000 a year on unnecessary purchases. And if you were to take that $18K of non-essential spending and put it into the most boring stocks on the planet, putting in $18K the very first year, and then only half of that, $9K, every year after, then without doing anything else, in 23 years, you would be a millionaire and never have to work another day in your life, being able to live off the interest your $1 million generates every single year. Meaning, if you started doing this at 25, then by the time you're 48, you'd be a millionaire, able to retire and live life the rest of your life on your own terms. But maybe it's too hard for the average person to put away $9,000 a year into something like this. Well, let's say instead you started at the age of 20 and only put $200 a month in, and you did this until you were 65 years old. Well, at age 65, you'd have around $2.1 million. But if you look around at the average 65-year-old, they usually don't have $2.1 million. They usually don't have $1 million. In fact, they usually don't have anywhere close to even $500,000. But literally anyone who would have mindlessly put away $200 into the stock market month after month from age 20 to age 65 would have been able to do this. And that's just at average rates, putting your money in the stock market. But let's instead consider what would happen if you stuck your money into real estate. Let's say for 1 year, you took all your non-essential spending, that $18,000, and instead of spending it on those things you don't need, you spent that money as a down payment on a house. And let's say from that, you get $800 a month. You could do it maybe as a traditional rental, maybe it's an Airbnb, whatever it is, you get $800 a month. And let's assume that half of that gets used for maintenance fees or whatever other costs come up. Assuming your house appreciates by the average 4% a year, then you would have made $8,400 from appreciation and from rent. And now you can go take that money you earned from that asset you invested into, and you can go spend that money on the things you want to buy, on the luxuries you want in life, on the trips you want to go on, and that money will keep coming back year after year. But let's say for this situation, you take that money and you roll it back into a new investment. You take again that $18,000 that you were going to spend on non-essential spending, you decide to really just budget and take that money as another down payment on another house, plus the new money that you've earned, and now you have $26,000. And you use that to get a house for $132,000. For this house, you charge $900 in rent, again cut in half, so only $450 are you actually taking home. Plus you have that 4% appreciation. Plus you also have the rent and appreciation from the first house you bought. With all of that added together, you would pull in a profit of close to $19,000. That's pretty amazing. From just 2 years of sacrificing short-term, immediate gratifications, you're now making about $19,000 a year. And if you kept doing this for 5 straight years, taking the money, rolling it back in, taking your non-essential spending, using it as a down payment for a house, by the end of the 5th year, you'd be making close to $80,000 a year from all of your real estate investments. And honestly, that's pretty much doing the bare minimum. There's a lot of people that have done real estate for 5 years who are multi-millionaires because they played it really smart. And this is just by taking advantage of the money you would traditionally waste on short-term immediate gratifications. On the other hand, there's actually a far more valuable resource that you're also wasting, and that would be your time. The average person wastes around 3 hours a day watching TV and around 5.5 hours a day on their phone. That's over 8 hours of their day, 56 hours of their week, and 672 hours of their year that are used for short-term gratifications that could be used for long-term massive rewards. And if you were to take this time that you traditionally waste and instead just spend part of it, so say like, you spend 5.5 hours on your phone, well now let's say you only spend 30 minutes a day on your phone. And instead of spending 3 hours watching TV, let's say you only spend 1 hour watching TV. You can take those 6 hours left over in your day, those 6 hours that have just been freed up, you can use them to educate yourself, read books, practice new skill sets, explore new side hustles, and more. For example, I started my journey with $0 in income, and I used all of my free time to educate myself. I devoted that free time to learning and growing myself when it came to finance, entrepreneurship, success, mindset, and more. And using all this, I was able to, in a year and 6 months, go from zero income to a net worth of over $1 million, all by trading short-term instant gratifications for long-term massive rewards. The reality is, most people can live wildly more successful lives if they develop the ability to give up those short-term gratifications, like browsing on their phone or eating that sweet treat at night, in exchange for long-term massive rewards like building a business that generates you passive income or working out and getting in shape. The problem is, those things can sometimes take years to accomplish. In fact, some of the biggest wins in life often require us to sacrifice for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years in order for us to achieve them. If you're overweight and out of shape, you can't just work out for a week and expect radical results. Even doing this for a month will have little noticeable effect on how you look. In reality, it's gonna take you 6 to 12 months of consistent sacrifice for you to be able to achieve the results that you're after. Or let's say you wanna become a millionaire and build your wealth. Well, I hate to break it to you, throwing your life savings at a random crypto project your brother-in-law told you about isn't going to cut it. If you wanna make $1 million, you have to put in the work required to make $1 million. That means spending a ridiculous amount of time learning and improving your knowledge and skill sets. The truth is, even if by some random lucky scheme you are able to make $1 million, you will probably lose it just as quick. How many countless lottery winners have we seen win tens of millions of dollars only to be broke and working 2 jobs trying to pay off their debt just a few years later? Or even if you were able to find this miracle diet that's able to get you back in shape quickly, what then? It was your inability to choose long-term big rewards over short-term immediate gratifications that got you into this situation in the first place. And the hard truth is, those same choices will put you right back into that situation again if you can't learn to switch your decision-making process from short-term immediate gratifications to long-term massive rewards. So the question is, how do we change the way we think? How do we switch our brain from choosing short-term to choosing long-term? Well, honestly, and this is gonna sound kind of cheesy, I think the first step is just recognizing that you do this. Recognizing that, you often do choose short-term gratifications over the long-term ones. And that's just part of who you are. You're the person that you do see the brownie on the counter and you're like, hey, I know I wanted to lose a little bit of weight and I'm trying to get in shape, but that brownie looks really good. You're the one that knows you should be outside playing with your kids, but you're sitting on the couch playing video games. If you don't first recognize and acknowledge there's an issue, then how are you gonna ever fix it? Once you've recognized that you fall into this trap and you've decided you wanna improve, a great tactic that I use is to stick something important that helps you get to your goal before a short-term reward. For example, if you often browse Instagram every single day, it's a compulsive habit, you can't stop yourself from browsing on Instagram. Maybe before you can browse on Instagram, make it a rule that before you get on Instagram, you have to listen to 30 minutes of an audiobook about entrepreneurship, about investing, about business, mindset, success, or whatever it is that you're trying to learn. This turns a time-wasting short-term gratification into a powerful tool and reminder to help you grow your long-term goals over time. Another thing that's really helpful is to write out your goals every single day. This might sound too easy or too simple, but it's a powerful tool and tactic that a lot of the most successful people on the planet swear by and say that it was an integral part in what helped them and allowed them to get where they are today. Writing out your goals each day allows you to remember and stay focused on what you're after. It's especially powerful if you visualize your goals as vividly as possible. The more you can feel it as a reality, the more you trick your brain into believing it could be a reality, making it easier for your brain to make those hard choices that sacrifice short-term gratifications for long-term massive goals. It's also a great way to stay motivated over long periods of time when you feel like you're not really seeing any results from all of the hard work that you're putting in. One of the hardest parts about this process is losing motivation when sometimes it takes years to achieve the results you're after. Big goals take time and often a lot of work. And a daily reminder of the rewards that wait at the end of the journey can be just what you need to keep going. And on that note, I also think it's important to come up with massive goals. And I know everyone else is gonna tell you should come up with realistic goals, but I 100% disagree with that. You need a goal so massive that it gets you out of bed every single morning, that it gets you fired up to conquer every single day and put in the work that's required to go after it. Small goals and rewards just don't get you motivated enough to go out there and conquer every single day to your maximum potential. Plus, you often land near where you aim. The saying goes, shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars. But on the other hand, aiming low almost guarantees you're gonna get mediocre results. And lastly, incrementally improve over time. Start with incremental improvements each day and don't worry if you don't radically change your entire life overnight. That's insanely difficult for anyone to do, if not outright impossible. It's going to take time to get you where you're wanting to go. That's why these are long-term rewards. Focus on where you want to go and just keep moving forward. Even if you're making just the smallest amount of progress every single day, even if you're just barely moving forward, that's okay because that momentum is going to start compounding, and the only important thing is that you're consistently making progress over time. As long as you're growing consistently, no matter how slow, you're on the right track. As always, if this video was helpful, make sure to hit that like button. It helps get this video out to more people. If you have any questions or comments or anything you want to add, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, but you gotta also hit the little bell next to it if you want to actually be notified each time I release a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.